Come on. Come on. You can see why cardboard tires were not the way to go.
En tout cas, si tu arrives à moi, tu auras un bon moment. Come on.
Get some traction. Go on.
Is because the motor is not enough powerful?
It's because I designed it poorly. And it hits the ground. I made a robot to solve world hunger. This robot drives around autonomously on farms and measures the moisture content of the soil, providing rural farmers with a moisture map so they can check up on things like their crop's health. This gives better insights on which parts of the farm to attend to more, and to provide a tool for evaluating land after extremely wet or extremely dry periods, like after storms or droughts. Now, for the particularly astute of you, you may have observed a special characteristic about this robot, not common with many other professional-grade robots. Well, not only did I want to solve world hunger, I wanted to make the prototype with as cheap and quick materials and methods as possible, recycling and reusing where I could. I wanted to prove that robotics was super easy, that anyone can get started with it, and I wanted a challenge. So, what you've got here is this cardboard robot chassis, an Arduino Mega that I found in our lab, a bunch of motors and servos, this resistance sensor at the bottom for measuring the moisture content, a few hundred lines of Arduino code, about 40 grams worth of 3D printed parts, and a mobile application that you can use to control it. And that's about it. And it looks rubbish, because it is rubbish. But it still serves its purpose pretty well, or at least it gets this idea across. Now I said lab, and I'll get to that more in a little bit, but in summary, I'm here with energy generation in Lomé, Togo. So I'm actually building the robot that's going to solve world hunger inside the startup incubator for the entrepreneurs that are going to solve this hunger issue and a whole heap of other African problems. Energy Generation even funded this project, so they are absolute champions. More on that later. In this project, I wanted to answer, what happened to hunger? So, how does world hunger necessitate the building of a cardboard robot? First, the good news. In the last 20 years, world hunger, expressed by the percentage of the global population who are undernourished, fell from 13.5% to just less than 9%. This reduction in a third is a great step forward in eliminating hunger. But scarily enough, in the last 3 to 5 years, it's actually been increasing again, notably in sub-Saharan Africa. The biggest driving force for this increase is climate change, whereby extreme events like floods and droughts are far more frequent and devastating. These are problems that help go away with better climate impact management, powered greenhouses, irrigation, and other agricultural technologies. But like all problems worth solving, it starts with collecting data and really understanding the problem. This is where drones, satellites, artificial intelligence, and robots come in. The better we understand the problem, the quicker and more effectively the problem can be solved. So, imagine yourself as a rural African farmer. You rely on traditional and well-understood techniques for managing your crops and livestock. Well, now the patterns and techniques that you and your village have been using for centuries are considerably less effective because you're being bombarded with extreme weather events more frequently and more forcefully. After one of these events, you need to survey your entire land in order to assess the damage, quickly, accurately, and cheaply. What you do next, and your entire village's livelihood, depends on it. Or imagine it's a perfectly normal week, and the crops are growing rather well. There aren't any droughts or floods to worry about, and so you can just go about your job normally. Well, as the population of the villages and towns and our big cities increase, so does our need to produce more food. This part is obvious. But a good proportion of the food grown here in Africa ends up being thrown away, or doesn't even grow effectively or efficiently in the first place. But if these rural farmers, who now have 5 or even 10 times more farm to manage because of the rising food demand, had access to tools that showed them which plants were in need of the most attention, such as watering or pruning or pest control, then we could massively minimise how much of our crops are thrown away and increase our feeding capacity while also lowering our total work required. And because I wanted to see how challenging this would be and what it would involve, I built a robot. My project was simple enough. Become a robotics engineer, learn to program in Arduino, learn how best to help farming, learn how to make apps that can talk with Arduinos, and build the robot that's going to get that hunger number down. And I've got 2 weeks to do it. This is what I made. What we've got here is arguably the world's most pathetic robot. It's made out of cardboard, glue, hopes and dreams. It's powered by not one, not two, but 3 different types of batteries. The sensitive electronics are clinging on with masking tape and were programmed by an absolute moron. And only one small cut. And it also only kinda sorta works. It's super temperamental, there are a whole bunch of design flaws, it legitimately bottoms out if it goes over a small twig, and there is no way it would work on a farm, and thus there is no way that it's solving world hunger. However, it is of course a prototype, and why do we build this stuff if not to find the flaws? So this little WALL-E knockoff, this laughable cardboard Mars rover, it's the spark of hopefully something quite interesting. And if you're watching this video to decide if you could build a robot in 2 weeks, yes, easily. It's not expensive, it's not difficult, you'll learn a bunch, it's super fun, and you can actually use it as a way to reuse materials that you were otherwise just going to throw away. If you're watching this video to see if I actively am helping world hunger in any way, would this beautiful invention, would it fix world hunger by helping farmers? No, not with this robot. But there are a whole bunch of amazing companies that are using robotics and drones to legitimately help world hunger in similar ways to this. So maybe this video will raise awareness for them, and maybe if you're an engineer looking for something new, you could go check them out. Finally, before I completely lose your attention in the day breakdown to come, I really wanted to thank Energy Generation. I've been volunteering with Energy Generation as a teacher in engineering and entrepreneurship, and what they do is massive. They're teaching and funding entrepreneurs all across Africa to solve the problems that most affect them, specifically in the energy, health and agricultural space. I would have completely ran this project without their support, I'm not going to lie, but having their support set the bar hopefully a little bit higher for me. It allowed me to be a little bit more ambitious, and it assigned a real cause to what I was building, even if my ultimate goal is to make a silly video that makes you laugh. On April the 21st, in a small tech lab in the outskirts of Lomé, Togo, I started the project. Originally, the plan for the project was to make a blimp that would float above a farm and provide in-depth monitoring over longer periods of time. I wanted to do something drones couldn't do. I wanted to reuse these black plastic bags that are littered everywhere in Lomé, and I thought it would be funny. But by Tuesday afternoon, I hit what would become the most common issue throughout the entire project: availability of parts. Trying to get hydrogen or helium in Lomé at an affordable price was impossible. The price of helium gas here is about 4 times the price that it is in the UK. Hydrogen could not be found, and I concluded that a hot air balloon would just melt the plastic bags. I would have spent nearly all of my proposed budget on the helium gas canister that I needed, and given that every time the blimp flies it would need fresh helium gas, I had to conclude that the project was simply not viable. By Tuesday afternoon, I felt pretty deflated. I ploughed through some more ideas, but after striking out a few times, I decided on a different approach. I thought, let's find out what we can buy, and see if we can build an idea on top of that. And lo and behold, one of our students pointed me to this little electronics shop that was just on the other side of the city. And on their website they had very little on offer, but one of the things that they did have was a moisture sensor. And so, by Wednesday evening, we actually started the project. Okay, new plan. We start life with Lil Queen to a patch of land. We mount the land. It goes into the ground and it measures the moisture content in the ground. To like the farmer that says, right, the ground isn't moist enough, we need to water it. Then, once it's sent that message, it goes and drives away, and it sort of docks with the big fella in a rather sensual way, and just grabs it, and it grabs the hose, and then the hose, like little dweeb, can drive away from the big fella grabbing the hose and sort of just like, drive back to the water, and it can spray the water all over the lovely grassland. But you'll probably say, but it will get like water all over itself. You're absolutely right. It's got like a tube in it, and the parasol deploys, and it can shoot water out, but it protects itself from the water. What am I doing? Why am I doing this again? Anyway, so that's how, and then that sort of compresses and fucks off, and so I'm going to turn that into a robot. Super quick pro tip. If you're going to make a robot out of cardboard, which I'm sure you all are, then a thing to do to improve strength is you could just laminate a bunch of these up, but these are like bits of cardboard that have like fibres, strands in a certain direction. So, if you instead print out in the opposite, the side in the other direction, then you've got like the fibres going that way and the fibres going that way. This is composite engineering for building a robot out of cardboard. Use a laser cutter because it can do it all really quickly, which worked really well until it caught fire to everything. So we're not going to use that, we're going to use hacky and spend all day doing it. This motor is really underwhelming. I mean, look how slow that's going. That's like 1 revolution a month. 30 centimeters every 6 seconds. That's going to be really underwhelming. We now have a rolling chassis, although I think I just broke it. I have broken that. My robot, which is in parts, is now Wi-Fi enabled. Because what isn't better with Wi-Fi?
So, here I am, here we go.
Just try going forwards.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god! Okay, wait, because it's like legitimately working-ish. Try turning as well.
Ready?
That's the sound of more things breaking, but that's okay. All I am recording, and this is...
I'm also still screen grabbing on the screen. So.
Absolutely stupid. Well, okay, there you go, Joe. That's basically the Mars rover. It's the Africa rover.
that's indeed wonderful. I congratulate you on your genius.
Well, yeah, never. I was expecting that. There is one disadvantage to using cardboard and tape. There's only one, and it's that when you want to remove something glued in, you've got to basically you've got to find a way to remove it without ripping up the cardboard beneath it. And the glue is stronger than the cardboard. I might sharpen those tips anyway. Who doesn't like a sharp tip? Cool, and then what do the plunge? 48% dryness, the opposite of moistureness, which is really fucking cool, right? Because this has got literally just the tip, isn't it? Not even the entire thing on the soil. I'm 3D printing a better gear system over there, and I'm fixing some GPS stuff now. Now what we need is whenever it goes to a new site, it's going to do the plungy thing. It's going to take the little plunger, it's going to plunge it into the ground, and detect the moisture content, and then it'll go back to some water thingy, some water container, grab a hose, and then drive back to the farm and then do the spray. Spoiler alert, it's an umbrella. I thought of a much funnier, better, more intelligent way. It's a sidecar. So this is not a sidecar, but imagine this is like a sidecar. You would go, you'd go around, you do your plungy thing, and then when you need to have the hose attached to your vehicle, well, we've kind of run out of space here. Let's do like a top view. We've kind of run out of space. We're not fitting a hose grappling thing on here without going vertical. And if we go vertical, then we top it over. Plugs in there. The USB cable obviously wouldn't be there. And then you'd leave a little bit of space at the front so that this wheel could stay there. But this shaft would be longer, so it would come out further. So you'd get another wheel here. So you'd have 3-wheel drive, because what is great? What's better than 2- and 4-wheel drive? It's 3-wheel drive. But then this entire sidecar platform is all dedicated to the hose and that sort of thing. People are probably looking at me quite strangely at this point. It's Saturday, day 13, and this is where we're at. It's about midday. We have, provided I sleep tonight, we've got maybe 20 hours tops, maybe 8 today, 12 tomorrow, that sort of thing. We do technically have a robot. I have fixed the front, so hopefully it will drive forwards, but there are a couple of things I need to test. I don't know about the GPS, but I think I can fix that in code. And then we need this entire contraption thingy on the side that's going to do the hose and the umbrella. I need to somehow mount these batteries because I don't want to just put them on the side. I'm thinking I'm going to do that sort of under here, and then that will work. The Wi-Fi is super unreliable, but now the good, better thing, is that of that big box at the beginning, this is all that remains, one piece. So I have used a shit ton of cardboard to make this. I've used an entire box for a ceiling fan. So I'm going to have to go find another box, but that's okay, because the whole point of this is to recycle materials, and I'll be able to find another box. I say recycle materials, there's a lot on this that's 3D printed and a lot that's bought in. Metal! The metal is too advanced for my robot. CNC parts, don't need that. Big fan, stuff like that. Servos would have been useful, things would have been useful, but this is the real thing that we care about. Oh yeah, a box that we can use, take apart. All I'm repurposing your box, Africa needs it more. Bandit? Yes. Effective? Also yes. One luxury that I've had with my previous projects is that I've been able to sink in nearly all of my time, because between being unemployed and COVID lockdowns, there was nothing else to do. Well, this project was the first time where I had to balance the project's efforts with work efforts, because I was still teaching, planning, running workshops and meetings, and doing a whole bunch of other stuff with energy generation. I handled this by working super late into the evening, dedicating time during the weekend, and working extra hard the weeks before the project and the weeks after. Had I dedicated an entire 2 weeks to this project? Sure, I think I could have made something a little bit more impressive, but I'm super happy with the results, even if it's not perfect, given that I essentially made this in my free time. What I'm trying to get across here is that just because you have a full-time job and an active social life doesn't mean you can't make something cool and learn something new along the way. It requires a little bit of effort and perseverance, but in the end, it's definitely possible. You're gonna want to have a farm that you can drive clockwise around. I kept hitting up against obstacles, like not being able to buy the materials that I needed, and having to change project ideas twice just to make something arguably useful. On top of that, we're in Africa, so I experienced power cuts and internet dropouts on a near daily basis.
Why Africa? Why? Bad Africa. Have internet. Sorry, Africa.
And believe it or not, trying to learn Arduino and Blink without the internet can become frustrating at times. On top of that, the robot is remote controlled over the internet, so I couldn't test the robot whenever the internet was down. But because of these pitfalls and failures, I actively made the robot more robust and built in failure mechanisms. I learned a lot more organically, and I ended up enjoying getting more into my arts and crafts because at least cardboard mache doesn't require electricity. Finally, I wanted to again mention Energy Generation, the company that I'm volunteering with and the sponsors of this project. They haven't asked for a shout out, and me badgering on about them was never part of any agreement, but I wanted to share their message. EG is a school and incubator for African entrepreneurs that want to solve African problems, specifically in the energy, health and agricultural domains. By teaching and funding locals to solve their own problems, you not only help address the energy, health and agri issues, but you address economic issues, education issues and employment issues. And this is a mission and vision that I really empathised with. We're in the process of setting up a volunteering initiative if anyone wants to help out with teaching, mentoring, marking submissions, running clubs, sharing their experiences, or a whole bunch of other extremely useful tasks. So even if it's just to say hi and learn more about the work they do, there's a link somewhere on the screen right now and a link in the description to check them out.
I think so.
Oh, good. I was really worried there he would say no. I think, yeah. In its current shape and form, from cardboard, it will be fine.